Hi everyone, this is my run on the Locked Room Part 2, which is the final chaos fight on Act 2 final chapter. And specifically this is the Xtreme TCC challenge run, and for those not aware, the Xtreme TCC challenge is essentially an additional challenge imposed by the Crystal Chronicles podcast group, where on top of meeting all mission objectives for the chaos fight, there are also certain restrictions in place, and the restrictions differ from challenge to challenge, and I'll be putting down a description of the restrictions for this particular Xtreme TCC challenge in the video description, so you can check out the video description for the full list of restrictions. Essentially, the Extreme Challenge requires you to meet all mission objectives without using any synergy characters, without using any burst mode, without using any friend support. Your summon has to be either chocobo or mock summon, and in this particular fight you cannot use a character that has been a manikin released before in the past. Now, it can be very difficult to see which characters have mannequins released, but you can check out a list of characters that are usable, which is no mannequins released before, in the video description or in decidiainfo.com, where I'll put a link in the description as well. So I won't go through the overall overview of the fight that in much detail. That is already covered in another video. Essentially, here there are two waves. The first wave is a wave of 3 mannequins, Lightning, Noctis, and Lock. And the second wave is the Ifrit summon. And the first wave is pretty straightforward. You will have to eat 1 EX from the Noctis mannequin and 1 Phoenix Ray, which is an AoE HP damage from Lock during the fight. Noctis EX Conjure Amiger isn't actually very dangerous if you keep him broken and you ensure that the person he targets the EX doesn't get broken. The EX does very little damage. And in my run, which you'll see later, the EX actually did 0 damage because the Brave gain from the EX wasn't enough to bring the Noctis out of the break state. Likewise with Locke, his Phoenix Ray does a little bit of HP damage but not a lot, and the heal it does is also very little. So overall, the first wave isn't very difficult. You should try to bring down Noctis and Locke first and Lightning last. If you incorporate AoE characters such as the Aranea that I use here, another way to be more turn efficient is to try to use splash damage to kill all 3 simultaneously. You just have to be a bit more careful if you take that route. The second wave, the Ifrit, of note in this challenge is that Ifrit is also heavily magic resistant. So this also severely limits the choice of characters you can bring. Unfortunately, most of the enchanters and imperialists are banned because they have mannequins released before. There are only 2 that are usable, which one being Lulu, which unfortunately, although she is allowed, she isn't usable because Ifrit absorbs fire, so enchant fire element will not work. And the second is Rydia. So Rydia can enchant water, which if you want to bring a magic based characters, that is an option, although Rydia is slightly outdated at this point in time. But given that the fight is not that challenging, I think she is still quite usable. Without the use of Rydia in this TCC challenge, you are then limited to physical based characters. So the strategy that I used, you can already guess just by looking at the party composition, is to fully utilize delays, because wave 2 is only a single enemy being Ifrit. So it's very easy to to fully abuse delay mechanics on the second wave. Now the nice thing about this party is that there are a lot of buffs and debuffs as well, which stacks up very nicely. So for example, Aranea can apply the Vital Crusher debuff, which significantly increases brief damage done by critical hits on a single target. And General Leo also inflicts Precision Strike debuff, which also increases single target brave damage against Ifrit. Quistis very nicely inflicts turn rate down and speed down to keep Ifrit's turns at a minimum. But beyond that, she also provides nice, well, not fantastic, but quite serviceable attack auras for the entire party. So the attack buff from Quistis, the Vital Crusher debuff from Aranea, and the Precision Strike debuff from Leo enables you to deal consistent damage to Ifrit throughout the entire fight, even after Ifrit's stats gets buffed at the 80 and 50% HP threshold. With all three characters being able to delay as well, you will see later on that Ifrit never gets a turn. And the great thing about this strategy is Ifrit doesn't start with a full recast bar. He starts off in the fight with his recast bar about 1/3 of the way filled up. Now this means that at the start of the fight, Ifrit will not be able to use Hellfire immediately, and therefore he will not be able to apply the Scorch field effect straight away, as well as grant himself the Scorching Inferno framed buff. So without the Scorch field effect and the Scorching Inferno buff on himself, the fight becomes significantly easier. And because you are indefinitely delaying Ifrit, he never gets to be able to use his Hellfire ability. And likewise, because of that, Aranea's Vital Crusher and General Leo's Precision Strike also never wears off on the second wave. So without further ado, let's head on to the fight. So on the first wave, you want to try to conserve the delay skills, so General Leo's Master Blade, Aranea's first skill, as well as all three of Quistis' Degenerator Whip. You can get by using one or maybe two Master Blades, and likewise one or two Dragoon Dive on Aranea if you need to refresh a Magitech Armament framed buff. But other than that, you should be keeping the rest for the second wave so that you can continuously delay Ifrit. Now I start off the fight focusing on Noctis. And the good thing about this run is that I lucked out and the Precision Strike debuff of General Leo at the start was on Noctis. Even if it was on another target, it wouldn't really matter because you'll be using Precision Strike quite a few times anyway throughout the fight. And once Noctis is considerably damaged, you want to then switch targets to one of the other mannequins, apply Precision Strike there, and then whittle that down. To be turn efficient here, because Aranea has splash damage built throughout her kit, you want to try to fully utilize her splash damage on the other mannequins to slowly chip away as well. So because of that, I did not burst down one mannequin completely. I damaged him down to a certain level and then I switched targets and then just let the splash damage finish off the mannequin the rest of the way. So with Quistis, once her EX is charged and you use it, it applies very nice debuffs on the entire enemy party, and thereafter all you need to do with Quistis is alternate between her Laser Whip, her first skill, and using one skill use will fully charge her EX, so you just alternate between Laser Whip and EX. The other thing to note is Noctis will always target his EX on the party member with the lowest HP, and ideally you want this not to be Quistis, and the reason for this is that you can then use Quistis to battery the other two party members during her turn. And you can see here when Noctis used his EX on General Leo, because General Leo had the lowest HP, it did 0 damage because Noctis was at the broken state and General Leo had Brave to tank the hit. With Lock, his Phoenix Ray does do some damage, but because it only broke Quistis, the party can very comfortably tank the hit. Thereafter, you can kill off the mannequins before Lock or Noctis use another Phoenix Ray or Conjure Amiger respectively. One other thing to note is that the mannequins have relatively low chase values, and this means that launches come very easily, and you want to try to time the launches so that you can fully maximize chase potential with the other two party members. So if you can launch one mannequin but you see that you can't chase with the other two members, you want to save the launch until you can ensure you get at least one, but ideally two characters to follow up. As you can see here, so Quistis did her EX, which batteries the party, and after that I get 2 follow-up attacks. And this deals considerable damage and helps your turn efficiency as well. Beyond that, the first wave is quite easy. Again, here you see that I managed to get a launch on the Lightning Mannequin with 2 follow-up right after that. And for the remainder of the first wave, it's all about trying to fully utilize splash and AoE HP damage so that you can bring down the mannequins at roughly the same time in the fewest turns possible. Okay, so second wave. I entered the second wave with all 5 Master Blades intact, 3 Degenerator Whips intact, and I believe 6 of Aranea's Dragoon Dive. I didn't actually use it near the end of the first wave, even though her Magitech Armament buff wore off, because I wanted to save it for the second wave. And here I start immediately applying delays on Ifrit. With Quistis, you still want to use her EX every turn that it's up, not only because it does a lot of damage and batteries the party, but it also ensures longevity with her. Her Laser Whip you should still use every now and then, because her Laser Whip gives her a generic attack up buff. So if the buff is about to wear out, just use 1 charge of a Laser Whip to refresh it. With General Leo, you want to use his Master Blade to charge his EX, and then use his EX and then use the free Master Blade to continuously delay Ifrit. You do not want to let his precision strike buff on himself wear off. So when it comes down to a low turn count, you can just swap one of his Master Blade for his precision strike to reapply the buff. Though having said that, if he gets a free skill, his free skill should always be on Master Blade, because you want to maximize delay as much as possible. If Aranea start the fight with one of her High Wind to apply Vital Crusher, thereafter at this point she has relatively low High Wind skill counts, so you want to save her High Wind when you need to break Ifrit with her so that she gets the overclock buff again. So try to be a bit conservative with the last 1 or 2 High Wind skill users with Aranea. If you find that Aranea is running low, you can just use her High Boost Lance to deal damage, because both General Leo and Quistis will battery Aranea anyway with their skills. So Aranea's high boost lance will still deal considerable damage. With regards to the summon, I waited until Ifrit is very close to getting a turn before I pop summon, and the reason for this is that if you spam delay skills inside the summon, you will really push Ifrit's turn all the way back, and this gives you a lot of breathing room after the summon is over. So inside the summon, you want to try to use more of your delay abilities to buy you even more turns. And that's it really. After the summon, Ifrit's turn is pushed so far back that he never really comes close, and you just have to keep yourself in a steady rotation with all 3 characters. So with Aranea, you just want to alternate between high boost lance and Dragoon Dive. Use high boost lance more if her EX is about to be ready, because the high boost lance do charge her EX gauge, but just by a little bit. If her EX is really far off, then that's when you want to use one of her skills to charge her EX meter. Try to get her EX when she still has overclock buff up, because her EX also extends her overclock buff. And again, save her High Wind or her AA for when you need to reapply overclock overclock as well. I did make a mistake near the end of the fight where I accidentally used Aranea's last high wind skill, and then thereafter she ran out of overclock and she did not have overclock on the last few turns of the fight. With Quistis, after summon, you just want to alternate between her Degenerator Whip and her EX. You can use her AA to replenish one more Degenerator Whip, so you have 4 Degenerator Whips in total. And very importantly, do not forget that when her attack up buff is about to wear off, then you just want to use her Laser Whip to give herself the attack up buff again. So Quistis is pretty straightforward. With General Leo, at this point he still has quite a few Master Blade skill users, so you can use Master Blade to charge his EX, use his EX and then use Master Blade. And as I mentioned at the start of the Wave 2, you just need to use his Precision Strike when his Precision Strike frame buff on himself is about to wear off, because you really don't want that to wear off. It gives the regen to the party effect. If for some reason General Leo is running low on Master Blade, save his last one Master Blade skill, because once he uses his EX he can then use it for free. At that point, if you reach that low, then you just want to spam Precision Strike to charge his EX, use his EX and then use the free Master Blade accordingly. And that's it. If you just keep up this rotation that I mentioned, Ifrit will never get close to getting a turn and you'll be able to comfortably kill him. I'll just fast forward the remainder of this video. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, do leave a like, leave a comment or subscribe. Until then, see you at the next chaos fight. Bye bye.